Morning guys. On today's video I'm just going to cover a few little items that I've actually found within the manual. They're like little tiny tips and tricks. I'm going to bunch them into a few little areas. So effectively the first one's going to cover the battery. Now the first point I've already made in the other video regarding the potential accident damage. If you have an accident, make sure that the body shop that's actually doing the repair actually knows about the DC converter, the wiring loom and the battery to be taken off if the paint booth is actually a higher temperature. I did actually have someone in the comments actually mention about that most main dealers would know that, but unfortunately in the private hire and taxi industry our insurance policies actually dictate where we have to take the vehicles to, and those particular companies, which won't be main dealers, I guarantee you won't know about this information, so bear that in mind. So that's the first point. The second point is actually something that's actually been shown by Stuart Wright. If you're watching, Stuart, hi mate. And that is the fact that if you press the start button without pressing the brake pedal, the vehicle will go into what was called on the old ignition key, where you actually went over to the ACC, which means your stereo can work and other little limited functionality of the vehicle. And as Stuart found out to his dismay, when he tried starting the vehicle, the 12 volt had actually dropped down to such a level that he had to call out the backup services like the A8 or the RSC to actually jump start his vehicle to get the main battery to acknowledge there was actually charge in the vehicle. Now a simple fix for this would be, in my opinion, a software update for future for Nissan to incorporate that on your main display in front of the driver. When you press the start button without pressing the brake pedal, that would actually come up with a sign saying, please bear in mind that if you let this level drop down to a certain degree, you won't be able to start the vehicle. Or even better still, maybe in the future generation, this could incorporate it into the, say, 60 kilowatt and the newer versions of Leaf further down the line, if they keep the same name, is basically a functionality that if you did inadvertently leave that say the 12 volt running, once it gets down to a certain level, the main battery would detect that and start feeding it. It would like switch itself on because it can only be a relay. Anyway, so that's the second point to make regarding that. Now the third point regarding the battery is not so much the actual battery of the vehicle, but actually in the key fob. Now if again your key fob is not within the vehicle, you can't actually start the vehicle or unlock it for that matter if it's too far away. But what I'm saying is, if the battery in that key fob actually goes down to a certain level that the information or like the receiver in the vehicle can't actually connect with the key fob, so this thing here, so if the battery in this becomes very, very low, there is still a way to start the vehicle. What you need to do is actually put it right next to the start button, and when you press the brake and the start, hold this right next to it, because apparently it doesn't say in the manual, but I'm wondering if, because there's probably a limited amount of battery life left in this, it's still transmitting a little bit, because I can't believe there's something magnetic in here that would actually affect that. So it's probably a very, very low state of battery charge in the actual key fob. Anyway, hold it against that, press your foot on the brake, and then press the start button, and then the vehicle will start, and then obviously get the battery replaced in this as soon as you can. The next 2 points are regarding the eco button and also the start button itself. Now regarding the eco button, the manual actually states that you should never operate this when in slippery conditions. So say for instance you're not in eco and then you press that, I don't know if that does something to the transmission that effectively could provoke a spin. The vehicle's got stability like control, like traction control, but it clearly states not to use that. So that's something to actually remind yourselves of when the temperatures start getting a bit lower, and you might want to just eke a bit more range out of the battery, and you press that, it could actually, like I say, it doesn't actually say what it actually does, which is a bit odd in the manual, but it says just don't do it. And the other thing, of course, is don't ever leave anything near the start button. If you hold that in or something's against it for more than 2 seconds, the vehicle will completely shut down, which could be catastrophic if you're driving down the road. So that's another thing just to bear in mind, guys. Also remember, guys, If you're using the ProPilot, if you've got ProPilot equipped on your 2018 Nissan Leaf or your 2019 Nissan Leaf, do not enable the eco, or you can enable it, but it won't actually increase the range of the battery if you press that while you're in ProPilot. Now, the reason I'm assuming that is actually that makes a lot of sense to me, although it doesn't actually state in the manual, is the fact that when it's in ProPilot and you're using adaptive cruise control, the vehicle will increase and decrease depending if people come in front of you, and it will start slowing down, and then it will re-increase to the speed again. And to maintain that kind of speed, if someone, say, pulls into you and they're coming across you, which happens a lot, and then they're exiting the junction, then you have to accelerate fast again. The eco would probably prevent that. So without the eco and the ProPilot, it would just accelerate normally. The last tip is regarding the use of the handbrake, in particular in the Tecna and the 2.0, which has got the electronic parking brake rather than the foot operated handbrake. God forbid you ever needed to stop the vehicle and the brakes failed and you needed an alternative method to actually stop the vehicle. If you hold on the electronic parking brake up for more than 2 seconds, the vehicle it will actually activate that parking brake on the rear, and it will obviously lock the vehicle up on the rear wheels at least. So it's kind of like a last resort kind of thing, but just bear that in mind, guys, if you do actually need that in an emergency.